Is on it. So I want to thank everybody that's here so far. Thank you all. I see a lot of people trickling in. Inshallah, we will be beginning shortly. Let me also see. And as Hasib is trying to get the sharing capability set up for us, I want to go ahead and acknowledge that we are live. For those who are joining us, this is our annual Sharia Portfolio Zakat webinar that we try and do in Ramadan. Ramadan is a special month for all of us, and I know that it is a time for reflection. It is a time for us to be able to give back and remember those who are less fortunate. So I'm grateful for all of you who have joined us. I know this is an interesting one because it allows us to go ahead and give you guys the nuggets that we can share with you on what is zakat, how is it calculated, who are the recipients of it, and so much more. I know there's questions that will come in, so we encourage anyone that is joining us to also have the ability to ask those questions in the chat. So we'll try and address them as we go, but especially towards the end. So if you have a pressing question, hang on to it. Is a good chance that the PowerPoint that we're going to be sharing here with Shaykh Umer will likely cover those questions for you. And we will also devote some time towards the end to address any particular questions that we feel can benefit anybody that's joining us. I usually also see if I can put together a quick disclaimer slide. I think before we do that, I just will put this up there, and then Shaykh Umer can share his. Are you guys seeing my full screen? Yes?
Yes, we see your screen.
Okay, so this is just an intro slide, and then we usually have a disclaimer that we put on. This is informational only, and for anyone who's looking for particular advice, they are welcome to speak with a licensed advisor for that. And hopefully we can dive in shortly. This is just our general contact information. If you're trying to get any information sent, and you're new to Sharia Portfolio, you can give us a call or send in an email to info@shariaportfolio.com. But also, if you have any particular questions that we do not get to today, you're also welcome to reach out to us, and we will make sure to have one of our team members get back to you. So that's from my side, and we'll let Sheikh Umer kind of dive in, and then I do have the sample purification and sample zakat report. So Sheikh, if time permits, I've blotted out the client specific info, and maybe we can walk through that if we're able to. But I'm excited.
I have the same. I also have a sample report with
sample. Okay, so don't worry about it. We'll go with whatever you have and dive right in. So thank you once again, everyone that's here. We are truly excited and honored to have you for our annual Zakat webinar. There's a question, an icebreaker on here. So if you're just joining in, please go ahead and submit, and we will begin here momentarily on the topic that everyone is here to benefit from. So thank you once again, and we'll pass it to Shaykh Umer. Thanks.
Okay, Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Can you see the slide in front of you, the fiqh of zakat slide? Aliredha, you're muted. So if you're speaking, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I see it. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so what I've done, what I intend to do today, because I know the most interesting part is usually the question and answer. And so my goal today will be to quickly gloss over maybe some of the straightforward and simple topics that maybe most of us already know, and focus a little bit more on giving you, I have a new 2 by 2 grid that I would like to share with you that if you attended last year or previous years, you will not have seen this before. It's a new grid that will hopefully help you understand the foundation of zakat and sort of some of the purpose of zakat and how zakat is supposed to create impact. But more importantly, what do we pay zakat on and what do we not pay zakat on and why? Why did Allah put the system in place this way? And once we understand that, the rest of the calculation of zakat becomes relatively straightforward. So my hope is that to spend really quality time on certain key slides, and I'll go fast through some of the material, which I think most of you already understand. I will slow down for some of the material that I think we really need to cover thoroughly, and then we'll come back at the end and I'll share some other details with you, and then we'll open it up to question and answer, inshallah. Okay? Because if really we're trying to finish all of the level of detail on all of these slides, that would take easily 2, 3 hours, maybe 4 hours. And we want to try and wrap this up in maybe an hour, hour and 15 minutes, something like that, including the question and answer. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Let me just say, if you have questions afterwards, I'm putting up my contact information. If you're a Sharia Portfolio customer, please reach out to info@shariaportfolio.com. If you're not a customer, you can still reach out to that address, no problem. But you can also reach out to me directly. And I know nowadays we have Gen Z people who don't check email, but they're checking Instagram. So I put Instagram up there as well for those that might want to check that. So the agenda for today, like Aliredha said, I'm just going to blow this up, is zakat. Why is it important? Who pays zakat? When is it due? What do you pay zakat on? That I want to spend some good amount of time on, inshallah. How do you calculate the zakat and how do you distribute the zakat? Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. Zakat, the word itself, before Islam came in and started using this word for something technical, the word just meant to grow or to increase or to clean or to purify. And this is because when we give zakat, our wealth grows. Allah says in the Quran, when we give zakat, our wealth grows. And when we give zakat, this is a type of purifying of our wealth, okay? And so technically, in Islam, zakat is a mandatory portion of our wealth that we have to give away to charity, only to specific recipients. We can only give it to specific groups of people, and it's done by Muslims that have a certain amount of money, okay? And this concept of zakat is different from the concept of sadaqah. So the question becomes, what's the difference between zakat and sadaqah? And I'll just summarize this for you. Zakat is mandatory. Sadaqah is voluntary. So you have to do zakat. You don't have a choice. Where sadaqah, you can choose to give. You choose how much to give. Zakat has a fixed amount. So you pay 2.5% of zakatable wealth. What is zakatable wealth? We'll get into that. But 2.5%, right? Whereas sadaqah could be 0%, 1%, 10%. You can give as much as you want, okay? And then zakat can only be given to specific categories of people. Allah spells this out in Surah Tawbah in the Quran. 8 categories of people, whereas sadaqah can be given to anyone that you like. It can be for any cause, whatever good purpose that you have, and you get reward for that as well. Okay. So why give zakat? Again, I'm going to go over this very quickly. It should be enough for us that it's a command of Allah, right? We obey Allah and we just want to listen to Him. We have to listen to Him, so we give zakat. But also, zakat is a pillar of Islam. It's one of the 5 pillars. And these 5 pillars didn't just come about at the time of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These 5 pillars came about at the time of Ibrahim, at least at the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam. How do we know this? Because Allah says in the Quran, وَأَوْصَانِي بِالصَّلَاةِ وَالزَّكَاةِ. That's Isa alayhi salam being quoted. And Isa alayhi salam is calling to prayer and to zakat. And Ismail alayhi salam is described as وَكَانَ يَأْمُرُ أَهْلَهُ. He used to call his people بِالصَّلَاةِ وَالزَّكَاةِ, with salah and with zakat, with prayer and with zakat. Okay, and we see this again and again for various prophets. All of the prophets were commanded to command their people towards prayer and to zakat. And Muhammad ﷺ did this, and the Quran itself over 30 times has وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَأَقَامَ الصَّلَاةَ وَآتَى الزَّكَاةَ وَأَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتَوُا الزَّكَاةَ وَأَقِمْنَا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتِينَا الزَّكَاةَ وَالْمُقِيمِينَ الصَّلَاةَ وَالْمُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ. So again and again and again, prayer and zakat, prayer and zakat, prayer and zakat. Yes, yet somehow zakat has become such an ignored pillar of our religion, despite the fact that it holds the same level of importance as prayer does. Okay, so it's a pillar of our religion. And it purifies our soul from greed. We give money away. It's psychologically beneficial for us. It disconnects us from that wealth, and it purifies our wealth, right? It causes us to have gratitude. When we give, we see who we're giving to, and we want to give them more. It removes jealousy and hatred and envy and enmity between the rich and the poor. And every once in a while, we know that our wealth needs purification. Maybe we show up to work and maybe we didn't bring our best attention. We didn't bring our best focus. Maybe we were by the water cooler, drinking coffee too long. Maybe we uh, were sloppy in the quality of our work. Maybe we had an expense report where we claimed something that we shouldn't have. Maybe we had a time card that we rounded up to an hour, but it was actually only 57 minutes. And so giving zakat purifies our wealth in some ways. Okay. So that's one of the benefits of zakat. And we talked about the fact it bridges the gap between the rich and the poor. It is the primary welfare system that Islam has. And this one's very important that people don't often think about, but Quran talks about this. The Quran talks about كَيْ لَا دُولَةً بَيْنَ الْأَغْنِيَاءِ that the money gets what we don't want is money to just circulate amongst the rich. We want the money to flow amongst all different levels of society, the rich, the poor, the middle class. And so zakat causes wealth to get circulated throughout society. And we know that circulation of wealth is beneficial for the economy, the macro economy, the micro economy. This is why when the government wants to boost the economy, they try to figure out how to get you to spend more money and save less money. That's why they lower the interest rates, right? Every economist understands this. And so zakat actually helps us have a more efficient and a healthy and a boosted economy. And I'll come back to this point in a bit, inshallah. Just really quickly, who pays zakat? Well, Muslims pay zakat. If you're non-Muslim, you don't have to pay zakat. You must own a minimum amount of wealth, otherwise you don't have to pay zakat. And you must have had that minimum amount for 1 year. What is the minimum amount? At the time of the Prophet ﷺ, it was 20 dirhams or 200 dinars. I said it backwards. It's 200 dirhams or 20 dinars. So either 200 silver coins or 20 gold coins. So now we convert that and we say, okay, 4.374 grams of gold is equal to, times 20 is equal to 87.45 grams. And so we can still apply those same values. At the time of the Prophet ﷺ, 20 dinars and 200 dirhams were the same. It was the same amount of value. In our time, gold and silver have taken different trajectories and they appreciate and depreciate at different scales. And so it turns out that even though at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they held the same value, gold now is the gold nisab, the minimum amount of wealth you need to have to pay zakat. As of today, and it's fluctuating a lot, so if you check the value, it will have changed again, is $14,628. Okay, so 14,000 and some. 2 weeks ago, I gave a seminar on zakat. It was $14,000. A couple of weeks before that, it was 13,000 something. So the value of gold has, if you're tracking the market, gold and silver have both gone pretty crazy. In fact, silver in 1 day lost 30% of value. There's a lot of movement and volatility going on. But what you do is you make sure that you have, let's say, the standard I recommend is the gold standard. Okay, the standard where we see, do we have $14,628? And if we have that amount of money for haul, which is equal to a lunar year or 354 days. So, let's say I end up, I'm saving money for the first time in my life. I get to $1,000, $2,000, 5,000, 8,000, 14,000. It gets to 14,628, and that's what the value of the gold appears to be. Let's say that happens on the 4th of Muharram, okay? Then once 4th of Muharram comes next year, that's the first time I will pay zakat on it. And if 4th of Muharram comes and I don't have the money, then I don't pay zakat on it. But if I have, let's say, at 4th of Muharram comes and I have $14,628 or more, okay, then I have to pay zakat. I don't pay zakat on the 14,000. I pay zakat on my zakatable wealth. I pay on the entire zakatable wealth. We'll come back to what that is, Okay. You don't just pay on the, oh, I've only had $14,000 for a year. You look at what do you have currently in your bank accounts and you add up your zakatable wealth, and we'll get to that in a moment, inshallah. But first, when is zakat due? I just kind of talked about this. A lot of people think zakat is due in Ramadan. I kind of make fun of this. I joke about it. I say we've become Ramadan Muslims now. We fast in Ramadan. We go for Taraweeh. We go to the masjid in Ramadan. We give zakat in Ramadan. We want to go for Umrah in Ramadan. You know, if we could, we would go for Hajj in Ramadan too, right? If we could, we would take all of it and put it in Ramadan. Reality is zakat is due when zakat is due. When you've had $14,600 or whatever that was, and one lunar year has passed, that's immediately when zakat has become due. That is your zakat due date. It could be Safar, it could be Muharram, it could be Rabi al-Awwal, it could be whatever date it is. It doesn't really matter. But many Muslims somehow have aligned their zakat date to Ramadan, which is why we tend to have these seminars and webinars during Ramadan. Anyway, so that's when zakat becomes due. And you know the system would have fallen apart if zakat was only paid in Ramadan, which is why zakat collectors at the time of the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr radiallahu anh and the Khilafah and so on, the zakat would be collected all year long. So zakat, there's nothing in the Quran or Sunnah that says zakat should be done in Ramadan. Okay, and the system would not work if we only did it in Ramadan. So the best way to do it is if people just fell on their natural zakat due date, the first time a lunar year passed since they had that 14,600 in wealth. So now we're going to get to the core of what I really want to talk about. So if you've been taking a nap, please wake up. This is where I want you to pay attention, okay? Everybody kind of understands if I ask what percentage is zakat, they say 2.5%. But then when I ask the next question, people start making mistakes. So I say, someone made $100,000 a year in salary. How much zakat do they have to pay this year? They say, oh, 2.5% of 100,000, $2,500. And then I remind you, zakat is not on your income. Zakat is not on your salary. Zakat is not on your income. Okay? Zakat is on your wealth. It's on how much money you have, not how much money you made this year. It's on your savings, what you have, all aggregated together. So then I ask a question like maybe, okay, I made $100,000. I saved 10,000 of it. Okay? How much zakat do I have to pay? And people start saying $250. And I say, no, 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 no. Zakat is not just on what I saved this year. Zakat is on all of the savings that I have. And every year I pay zakat on all of that, but only the zakatable part of it. So that's where we start getting into the meat of the conversation, is 2.5% of my zakatable wealth is what I pay on. But what is my zakatable wealth? To help figure this out, I created a 2x2 grid. Okay. This is how management consultants solve all problems. They create 2x2 grids. So I'm trying to solve the zakat problem with a 2x2 grid. And I'm saying all of our assets, all of our wealth, all of the money that we have, we can divide it into two categories. It's either something personal, okay, like I'm wearing this thobe right now with a black background. Maybe you can't see, with a black thobe and a black background. I'm wearing a black thobe. This is my personal asset. Okay, I wear this. It's mine. My house is mine. My car is mine. So it's personal. Okay, my watch that I'm wearing, it's my watch. These are my things. So that goes in the personal category. At the same time, I might decide that I want to invest. Okay, I want to have a business. So I open an ice cream shop, or I buy some stocks, or I buy mutual funds or ETFs or land or whatever it might be. And that is going to be a business asset. Okay, so I have personal assets and I have business assets. Then within that, I've divided that into two categories. Those assets that are productive, you can say that are in use, that are providing benefit, that are providing value. In Arabic, you would say they're being that they're in the process of isti'mal, they're being utilized and used to create something or to provide some benefit or value. And then there are those assets which just sit there and they don't provide benefit or value. They're just like, they're somewhere. Okay. An example of this would be like cash sitting in my wallet. It's not providing any value. The thobe I'm wearing, that's providing me value. It's covering my body. It's keeping me warm, right? It's making me look good, right? All of these things. But the cash that's sitting in my wallet or my bank account, that's not providing any value right now. It could if I converted it into something, but right now it's not. So if you take all of our assets and we divide them into personal productive, personal idle, business productive, business idle, you don't have to like the words productive and idle. These words productive and idle are actually taken from the field of economics. In economics, an asset is considered productive when it's providing value, and it's considered unproductive or idle when it doesn't. So, for example, Warren Buffett uses this terminology, and he says, I only invest in productive assets. I do not invest in idle assets. Okay, so that's very well known. Warren Buffett says that. And so I use that term, but we can call them used and unused or, something like that, deployed, undeployed. Maybe there's better terminology that works for you, but this is how I've divided it up. And the reason I've divided it up this way is to explain to you how Zakat works. So I want you to please pay attention. Let's just kind of go through some examples here, right? My my house is my personal asset. I use it. My furniture, it's mine. I use it every day. My cars, I drive them. Okay. My clothing I wear, it provides me value and benefit. I don't have jewelry, but my wife has jewelry and she wears it. And so that's her personal asset as well, right? And I'll put a star by jewelry, saying there's a little bit of difference of opinion on jewelry, but let's go with the majority opinion. Okay, the Shafi'is, Malikis, and Hanbalis, they all go with this opinion, which is that your personal assets, which are productive, no zakat. My car I drive, my house I live in, the jewelry my wife wears, the clothing, all of this stuff, there's no zakat on that. So what are the idle assets? The idle assets are cash in my wallet, cash in my bank account, cash in my stock brokerage account, cryptocurrency in my, well, not physical wallet, but my offline wallet, cryptocurrency in my Coinbase account, cryptocurrency in any account, because cryptocurrency is just a type of cash. It's even named currency, right? So you have cash, you have currency, money that people owe you because that's also your cash. Gold and silver, that's not jewelry, that's like for investment purposes. So I might have a gold bar, I might have gold coins, I might have GLD, as an ETF that's available on the stock market. Silver, that's for the same purposes. These are things you're holding for value. Notice all of these things economists would call stores of value. These are things where I can put money and it'll save my money. My bank account saves my money, my wallet saves my money, my gold bar saves my money, right? But they're not providing value. They're just sitting there. They're stores of value, okay? So money doesn't provide you any benefit. Money can be converted into something that provides value. So if I buy a car, now I no longer pay zakat on that. But if I bought the car for driving myself, but if it's sitting as money, while it's sitting as money, I have to give zakat. So gold and silver, I pay zakat on. Collectible and art. If I buy art because I think it's going to go up in value, I buy comic books, I buy cars because I think they're going to go up in value. These are the classic cars maybe, right? Not an average car. An average car is going to go down in value. The classic car you're buying because you want it to go up in value, things like that, you will pay zakat on because you're buying something because you want its value to go up. You want its value to appreciate. Okay, if that's why you're buying it, it's going to be an idle asset. By the way, I haven't gotten to business yet. I haven't gotten to stocks. So please don't walk away without hearing how all of that works. And then money that you owe gets subtracted because it's not your money. Somebody else has to pay zakat on that. So this is pretty cool. Why is it so cool? Because imagine you had to pay zakat on your house. Well, what are you going to do every year? Take some bricks out of your house and then like give them away? After a few years, you'd have no house left. What if I had to pay zakat out of my thobe that I'm wearing, right? I have 5 pieces of clothes and then I have to give one away, or let's say I have like 20 pieces of clothes. I have to give one away, something like that. And then next year, another one, soon I have no clothes left. So out of the mercy of Allah, Allah only puts zakat as something on idle wealth. It's not providing you any benefit anyway. Your house is the one providing you benefit. No zakat on that. Your clothes, no zakat on that. So only on the things that are excess that you have. Okay. This idea that cash is not providing you any value yet. You have to pay zakat on that. Your cryptocurrency is just sitting there. It's not boosting the economy. It's not creating any jobs. It's not providing you, other than the fact that it's serving as a store of value, there's nothing else. So these things you pay zakat on. And a business works the same way, okay? So a business has fixed assets, machines that they use. Maybe they have buildings, maybe they have furniture, they have, patents, they have, if you have a rental real estate, if you have a house that you rented it out, it's providing benefit to somebody. It's like a fixed asset. It generates for you return. So all of these things we're talking about here, the buildings, the machinery, the rented real estate, okay? These things are assets like your house. They generate value, they generate returns, they generate products. Okay. So either they're generating cash for you and that cash gets added into your idle assets, or they're generating products for you on those products get added to your assets. Because a business, like a personal, you still pay on the cash. A business has to pay zakat on cash. A business has to pay zakat on the cryptocurrency they own. They have to pay on money that they're owed. Money that a business is owed is called a receivable. So they pay zakat on receivables. A business also pays on inventory. So these assets that they're using, the buildings and the machines, might generate inventory, but that inventory you have to pay zakat on. Why? Because, see, cash is cash. Receivables are money that's going to become cash because someone's going to give you that cash, right? They owe it to you. And inventory is about to become cash. So if I made ice cream, I'm going to sell that ice cream in the next 3 days. That's about to become cash. So really, zakat is on cash, cash, cash. It's on cash-like things and things that you're holding because you bought them for them to appreciate in value and then be sold. And I'm not talking about stocks. Stocks are businesses themselves. I'm talking about just pure assets. If I buy a watch and I buy it because I want it to go up in value, I pay zakat on it. If I bought it because I wear it, I don't pay zakat on it. You see that? If I buy an art piece that I put on the wall, I don't pay zakat on it because I'm using it. If I bought it because I put it in the garage because I expect the price of that art to go up and I want to benefit from the return, then I pay zakat on it because it's considered inventory. Okay, it's business inventory. I'm buying it and I'm selling it. I'm buying it and I'm selling it. Anything that I'm buying and selling like that is considered inventory. Okay, so that's how we treat a business. So in both cases, personal and business, you don't pay zakat on the productive wealth or the productive assets that you have, but you do pay on the unused idle assets that you have. Okay. And unused and idle includes inventory, and it includes those things that you bought because you wanted them to go up in value. Okay. So that's why like cryptocurrency will generally fall into a category where you pay full zakat on it. Okay. Whereas your car, you don't pay zakat on. Okay. Now, how you look at stocks, we'll get to in 2 slides, but a stock is a business. So you have to look to see for that stock, how much does it have in buildings and machinery versus how much does it have in cash and receivables and inventory? And that's how you pay zakat. And we'll talk about that in a second, inshallah. First, I want to just talk about this idea of money that you owe. You can subtract the money. So this is all your zakatable assets down here, okay? Up, these two cells up here, these are not your zakatable assets. These two down here, these are your zakatable assets, okay? But you can subtract money that you owe in a business that's called a payable. But what can you subtract? You don't get to subtract long-term liabilities. You only get to subtract short-term liabilities. So those short-term liabilities are things that are coming up due in like the next 30 days or so, like your rent, your utility bill, your credit card bill, your taxes that are due, your house and car financing payments, student loans, money that you owe others. These are all things that you owe that are due in the next 30 days or so. Okay, only the next 30 days. You don't subtract something that's due in 6 months or 1 year or 2 years or further away. So for example, you have like a mortgage on your house. People ask this a lot. Then you will pay the upcoming mortgage payment. You will subtract that from your zakatable wealth, but you're not going to subtract the 30 years of the mortgage. Okay. So how do we look at a stock? The way that we look at a stock, actually, there's one more point that I want to make over here. Why did Allah set it up this way? Well, number one, out of his mercy, he doesn't want us to pay on things that we're making use of because that becomes very burdensome. And Allah is infinitely merciful. So we don't pay on our, house and furniture and all these things. But there's one other idea here, which is Allah, there's actually this famous statement, this hadith that popped up earlier that I made go away. There's a hadith, a narration of the Prophet ﷺ that we find in the book Sunan al-Tirmidhi, where it's attributed that either the Prophet ﷺ said this or Umar radiallahu anhu said this. We're not really sure who said this. There's difference of opinion on that. Regardless, whether the Prophet ﷺ said it or one of his greatest companions, Umar radiallahu anhu said it, it becomes part of the sunnah. So it's something that we follow. And Umar radiallahu anhu, he says to the guardian of an orphan, he says, how should you treat the wealth of an orphan? And he says, فَلْيَتَّجِرْ فِيهِ. Take the wealth of an orphan and invest it. Do something beneficial with it. Put it in a business. Put it to good use. Make it into a productive asset. Benefit the economy. Create jobs with it. Create good, beneficial products and services with it. Because when you do that, he says, وَلَا يَتْرُكْهُ. Don't just let it sit there. Don't let it just sit there as cash in your bank account. Don't just let it sit there as cash in your wallet. Because what happens? حَتَّى تَأْكُلَهُ الصَّدَقَةِ. The word sadaqah here means zakat, actually. And what he's saying is, if you let it sit there $100 becomes 97.5 because you have to pay 2.5% zakat on it. Okay. And then that 2.5% keeps applying every year. So it goes 97.5, then it goes below 95, then it goes below 92.5. So zakat, you're paying every year, every year, every year, and the money's just going to reduce and reduce and reduce. Okay. And so Umar radiallahu, and nowadays we have inflation. Back then there wasn't even inflation. So not only is there zakat, but there's also inflation. So Umar radiallahu anhu is saying, invest that money. Okay, this is why hawl is given, a whole 365 days between zakat to zakat. You have 365 days to invest your money. All the seasons are there. If you have a cyclical business, don't worry. You get summer, you get winter, you get fall, you get spring. If you have like a business that relies on tax season, don't worry. There will always be a tax season in the middle of the year, right? And so take the money, invest the money, put it into a business, put it into investments, get your returns, and then the zakat is not so burdensome. And by the way, your zakat is lower. So the way that Allah built this system is for the things that are up here in the top two, the productive, personal productive business, they're creating value and benefit anyway. They're creating value and benefit anyway. As Muslims, Allah has given each of us different types of resources. Some of us, He gave more wealth than others. And Allah says this in the Quran, وَرَفَعَ بَعْضَكُمْ فَوْقَ بَعْضٍ دَرَجَاتٍ, that Allah gave some of us, put us in different levels, and He gave some of us maybe more money. Okay. Some of us He gave maybe more health. Maybe some of us He gave more power, more resources, all these different types of things. All of them. Some of us He gave more time. Some of us He gave more He gave more time. Right? So how do we use that time? How do we use that money? How do we use our health? How do we use all of those resources? That's what we're being tested on, right? And so what we're supposed to do, what Allah encourages us to do, is take wealth and make it productive. فَلْيَتَّجِرْ فِيهِ. Invest it. Do something useful in it. Don't just let that money sit there. And that's going to create impact. A Muslim is always worried about the impact that they have, that their lives create. How am I using my intellect, my money, my health, my power, all of my resources to create benefit? That benefit can just be a business. It can be products and services that are beneficial for humanity, for the ummah. And it creates jobs, boosting the economy. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's not something we should shy away from. But what happens if we have money that is not providing that impact? It's idle. It's sitting there, either as cash or cryptocurrency or gold or something like that. What do? Allah forces and takes 2.5% of it anyway and gives it to the poor and the needy and other categories. And that creates benefit. And that creates impact. So either, number one, what this chart should lead us to believe is, number one, Allah wants us to move idle wealth into productive wealth. So we should do that. But if we don't do that, 2.5% will get cut and it will create impact anyway. So either we create impact ourselves or zakat will force that impact anyway. Okay, so that's just an understanding of how wealth works in Islam. It's beautiful, really, the way that Allah has built the system. Let's get back to stocks. So number one, people who deal with stocks are of two types. And there's an entire Fiqh Council fatwa on zakat on stocks, very detailed write-up. If you want to learn about why and how this works, you can read that write-up, inshallah, and it will be beneficial. But there are two types of people who deal with stocks. And even the same person might have two intentions when they're dealing with maybe two different stocks that they purchased. They're either acting as traders. You know, everyone knows this concept of day traders, right? They buy and sell stocks. They're treating them like commodities. So if you're going to treat something like a commodity, you know, you buy and sell phones, you buy and sell watches, you buy and sell ice cream, then you go back to this chart and you say, how do I treat something that I buy and sell like very quickly, right? It's called inventory. Well, in inventory, I'm going to have to pay zakat. I'm going to pay on the full market value of the stock because my stock becomes like inventory. It becomes a commodity of trade. In Arabic, we say urudu tijara. It becomes a commodity of trade itself. So I have to pay zakat on the full value. If I have $100,000 that I'm day trading with, and it's in a bunch of different stocks, I will pay full $2,500 zakat on it. Okay. The other type of investment in stocks, like how ShariaPortfolio, for example, operates. Okay, ShariaPortfolio is not a day trading company. If you want to do day trading, please go elsewhere. ShariaPortfolio will help you manage your wealth for the long term. And so ShariaPortfolio, the way they look at it is they evaluate every stock as a business. They'll look at it and say, okay, what is this company? What does it do? How is their management? How has it performed? Do we believe it's going to do well? And so it's looking at stocks as an investor. It holds investments for long term, and it evaluates the investments based on long-term parameters instead of short-term parameters. So what happens in this case is because they become a partner, or your funds invested with Sharia Portfolio get invested into businesses that are treated into businesses, basically, those stocks are treated like businesses. So for every stock you say, let's go back to this chart, I will not pay zakat if I have, I don't know, NVIDIA shares. I will not pay zakat on the buildings NVIDIA has, the machinery they have, the intangible assets, and the rented real estate. Instead, I will pay zakat on the cash that NVIDIA has and money that people owe them and their inventory and any real estate that you've bought for appreciation, et cetera. And you subtract from that the payables. Okay. So that's how you look at stocks. Well, that's very hard to do. If you have to pull out balance sheets, go to like 10K stamp, 10K, 10Q, 8K statement, you have to go through all these different statements and pull out and figure out how much zakat to pay. Most people are going to say, we don't know how to do that. Forget it. I'm not even paying my zakat. So in order to make this easy, alhamdulillah, for those that don't have a Sharia portfolio account, there's a free tool on the internet. And the reason I promote this is because it's free. It's called Zoya Finance. So you can go to zakat.zoya.finance. And they also have a mobile app which will do your zakat for free. So you can connect this to your brokerage account if you like. The app you can connect to your brokerage account. The website, you have to type in what stocks you have. So you can say, I have this many shares of this company, this many shares of this fund, this many shares of this. It'll do your zakat math for you. So for example, if you go in there and you say, I own SPUS, which is the Sharia portfolio funds for S&P 500 minus all the haram stuff. So these are all of the halal stocks in the S&P 500. And you say, I have 100 shares of these. And I'm a long-term passive stock investor. So I'm holding this for the long term. I'm going to treat this like a business and not like commodity. And you do the math, it will tell you exactly how much zakat is due. Just click that button, it'll tell you how much zakat is due. So earlier today, just to help you understand how this works, I did some calculations earlier today. So you can see SPUS, right? Which is, we just talked about this fund. If I had $100,000 worth of SPUS, if I had $100,000 worth of SPUS, and I'm day trading and I'm buying SPUS in the morning and selling it in the evening and buying it tomorrow and selling it next week, I will have to pay $2,500 in zakat. Okay, because it's 2.5% because I'm a day trader. I have to pay on the full market value. But if I'm buying SPUS for the long term, and you can read the article for the details on that and the way that Sharia portfolio operates, then you go back and you say, you know what? I'm only going to look at, there's a few hundred companies in SPUS. How much of that is buildings, machinery, intangible assets, and this, versus how much of that is cash, receivables, and inventory? I'm only going to pay on the cash, receivables, and inventory. And so the Zoya website will do that for you and look across hundreds of companies and come up with a very simple value and say, of every $100,000 in SPUS that you have, $8,300 is going to be the zakatable portion, cash, receivables, and inventory. And the zakat due on that is $207. So this is from today. Of course, you would run this on your zakat due date. You wouldn't run it today. You would run it on your zakat due date. So you find on $100,000, instead of $2,500 zakat that a day trader pays, a long-term investor will end up paying $207. It's a very significant reduction in zakat. You're like, oh, is this zakat cheating? No, it's not. We're just following the hadith of Umar radiallahu anhu, or Prophet ﷺ, where it says, فَلْيَتَجِرْ فِيهِ. We're investing our money, and with that investment, your zakat burden goes down because you're putting that money to productive use and you're creating impact. If you look at the S&P 500, so Vanguard has a fund called VOO, which represents the S&P 500. The zakatable percentage is about 25% right now as of today. So you would pay $626 in zakat on $100,000. And then I just picked a random stock, NVIDIA. Its zakatable percentage is 1.9%. So 2.5% of 1.9%, you end up paying $47 in zakat on $100,000. Negligible amount, really, not a big deal. Really quick, couple of things that people ask a lot about. One of them is retirement accounts. How do I deal with 401k IRA, Roth IRA, 403b, and all of these DAFs and other types of plans? How do I deal with all of them? We have an article on the Fiqh Council website specifically on 401ks and IRAs that you can read. But the short answer is do it exactly the same way as non-retirement accounts. Okay, you just go to the Zoya tool, you say what you have, it'll do the math for you, and it will tell you what's due. And that's the easy way to deal with retirement accounts. Another question that's come up a lot is zakat on sukuk. So I just published an article, I think yesterday or today. I just wrote this up on how zakat is paid on sukuk. And so you can go read this article. If you don't know what sukuk are, the article will explain to you, and maybe you can learn about them. But it will tell you exactly how to pay zakat. So how do you deal with zakat? You add up all of your zakatable assets, right? You add up, you don't include your house and your car and all of that. You do all of the zakatable assets. Then you subtract debts that are due in the next 30 days. And then you see if the total value meets 14,600. And if it doesn't, you don't even have to pay zakat. If it does, you do pay zakat. So you take all of your zakatable assets, multiply that by 2.5%, and that's going to be your zakat that is due. Okay. I want to show you some calculations as well, but let's quickly talk about a couple of important topics. So I'm going to gloss over these. The first one is, who do you pay zakat to? And the answer is the Quran very clearly spells out 8 categories of zakat. And zakat can't just be given for every single cause that you think you want to give the money to. It can only be given to these 8 categories, the most important being the fuqara and the masakin, the poor and the needy. So make sure that when you're contributing zakat, that the organization you're giving to or the person you're giving to is actually eligible and really understands how to give zakat, because some organizations don't know how to handle zakat properly. And you have to be very careful. So ask them, who's the scholar that's approved this? Make sure it's someone you trust, and make sure it's worthy of giving zakat. Another quick topic is prioritization, and making sure that you're prioritizing those that are close to you. Well, who's close to you? Number one, your family, right? They deserve your zakat more than anyone else. Number two is your local area, people that are in your local area. And then you give to other causes. But in family, be careful. There are people who have rights upon you. A wife cannot take zakat from a husband because the husband is responsible for taking care of his wife. Children cannot take zakat from their parents because parents are responsible for taking care of their children. Vice versa is true as well. Children are responsible for taking care of their parents when they're older. And so you cannot give zakat to your parents, okay? But you can give zakat to your cousins, your nieces, your nephews, your uncles, in-laws, etc. So there's a lot of people you could give zakat to, okay? There's some questions here that are miscellaneous, but we don't have to get into them. I actually want to get into showing you the calculation. So let's go ahead and do that. The first thing that I want to show you is someone built a tool. So I just want to show you this tool. It's called seemyzakat.com. So the Zoya website's very useful for stocks. But if you want a comprehensive calculator, there's seemyzakat.com, SEEMYZAKAT.com. It's very quick, and it understands modern instruments of finance. So I'm just going to go through this really quickly, show you, like, for example, it says, okay, what date, today's date, what do you have? Let's just assume I own everything. Okay, I have one of, oh, I can just click the all button, and then I can just get started. So, okay, I can put my checking account. I have my checking account with $1,000. I also have, I have cash in my wallet. Actually, I never have cash in my wallet, but let's pretend I do. It's $100. And then let's assume I have cryptocurrency and it's BTC. And let's say I'm like really lucky and I have an entire Bitcoin. It automatically looks up the Bitcoin price for you. Okay. And then I can add that in as well. Okay. And so I can add, actually, why didn't it find Bitcoin? My demo's failing. There we go. So it found Bitcoin. Okay. That's the right price, 69,512. It's down quite a bit. I can add, loan. So let's just say Aliredha owes me, okay, $1 million. Okay, so I add that. That's the majority of my wealth is what he owes me. Okay, so that's money. I continue. I can add my investments. So the cool part here is I can say I have, NVIDIA, 100 shares. It's slightly slow because it looks up the entire stock price. And then I can say I have SPUS, 100 shares as well, and it's going to look up the stock price. I add that. Okay, so I can add my HSA, DAF, 529, ABLE account. Then I go to the next one, continue, retirement account. So again, I can add 401k. It always has these weird fund names in there if you don't have a brokerage link or self-directed 401k. So I added my 401k in there. Okay, I can also add IRA, Roth IRA, TSPs. Here I add my valuables. This website actually differentiates between 24 karat and 14 karat gold and all this stuff. So I can say I have 24 karat gold. Let's say I have a bar. It's 100 grams. It pulls the price for you, so you don't have to do the math. And then I can say I have jewelry. I'll call that wife jewelry. Spelled it wrong, that's fine. 100 grams. Okay. I can add here, I bought my Rolex watch for investment. I don't have a Rolex, but just in case, I guess that would be like 10,000 or something like that. Then I can go and say like real estate. Well, I could put my home in here, right? But it's not going to count towards Zakat. It knows that already. So that's fine. I can add a rental property. It also knows that rental property, I don't have to pay Zakat on that because my rental, because the cash that's going to come back from the rental is going to go into my bank account, okay? But I can also add my investment property here, and then I can add a business. So I can say I have a, let's just say I have a partnership business, and so clinic, sure, it has cash, it has some receivables, and it has some inventory, and then I can go and customize this. So I can click on this icon, say I only own 50% of this business, not all of it. Great. Okay, I come here, I could do equity compensation. For those that are in Silicon Valley, this is extremely useful. For those that are not, maybe not so much, but you could do your restricted stock units, you could do your stock options that are coming from your employer and your employee stock purchase plan. It'll ask you things like how much are vested, how much is coming from, what's the strike price? So let's say we say I work for Relativity Space, the strike price is $2 and I have 100 shares. It doesn't know the price because it's a private company, so I should mark it as private. And then I'll say the price is 200. It will add that, and then I can even do the balance sheet on it. So I can say, okay, let me ask my company how much they have in cash, receivables, and inventory, and what the total value is. So I can pay on my stock options. Okay, and then debt, what do I owe? I owe to my Chase Sapphire card $100, right? Done. Continue. Okay, see how quick that was? So now I can go in and I can do fancy things like I can say, hey, look, please add my wife. Okay, so wife shows up here. I can assign each of these accounts to a person if I want. Don't need to do any of that. Okay, it's just optional features. But I can go in and I can say, okay, my NVIDIA shares are long-term. SPOS is long-term. I never invest for the short term anyway. This is long-term. My bar is for investment, but my wife's jewelry is for personal use. Okay, my equity compensation long-term. Great. Calculate my Zakat. And it gives me a report. Total Zakat due is 27,000. Well, that's mainly because Aliredha owes me millions. So if I click on that, I can see most of it's coming from, cash. I can see investments, right? Even though my investments were a lot of money, the zakatable portion was less, not that much zakat. Retirement account, not that much zakat to pay. The jewelry, I can see I have to pay on the bar, but I don't have to pay on my wife's jewelry. I could have chosen a different school of thought, in which case I would have had to pay. Real estate is here, but it's excluded. My business, 50% partnership, my equity compensation, my debts. So all of this is here, and my total zakat is given over here. Okay. So this website is very useful. seemyzakat.com. I would encourage people to use that. The other thing that I would like to show you is if you're a ShariaPortfolio client, either like now or very soon, let me just share my whole screen here. You will be able to request from your client advisor a Zakat report. A ton of effort has gone into this to really go through all of your accounts and figure out, so we've blurred out the account names here, but you can see based on account number, how many total shares of stock do you have? How much cash do you have? What's the market value? What's the total zakat? Oh, this is a summary. Okay, this is a high-level summary. You can also go into detail. So how many shares of Tesla? What is that worth? How much zakat per share? How much zakat on the cash value, zakat owed. So you can see your entire portfolio, the Tesla, the strategy, Clean Spark, NVIDIA, etc. What is the total zakat due on each of these? And it will go into great detail if you're interested in the detail. If you're not interested in the detail, no worries. You have at the very top here, total market value of your portfolio, $670,000, but total zakat owed is only 1,178, right? This uses the balance sheet method to calculate the cash, accounts receivable, and inventory, and it tells you how much zakat is due. So this is a very, very useful report that ShariaPortfolio has put a ton of effort into creating technology to automate generation of this report. that you can get as a PDF, and you can also get like an Excel spreadsheet if you prefer that. And there's another report which is related to purification, not related to zakat, but the idea here is that when you invest, sometimes if you read on the Fiqh Council website, zakat on stocks, not zakat on stocks, permissibility of investing in stocks, right? What type of investments can you have? It will tell you that you can invest in stocks that might have a little bit of haram in them. Okay, and there's a way to screen those stocks, and you need to know how to screen those stocks. And Sharia Portfolio has a very extensive mechanism for screening those stocks. But because there's a little bit of haram that comes in, you need to cleanse that out. So Sharia Portfolio follows a dividend purification method, and this report will show you on your portfolio, for example, here you own 15 cents. Not a lot, 15 cents in charity that you can give away, and that will purify your portfolio. So these are new features available through Sharia Portfolio that are I'm sure like Aliredha is very excited. I'm very excited to share this with people who are clients. But those are just some of the things that I wanted to show you. And with that, I would love to move on to question and answer if that's okay. Does that seem good, Aliredha, to move on to Q&A?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you so much. I really benefited from actually looking at things from that productive versus idle lens, and even the idle is meant to be productive to serve society in some way. So
Yeah.
that was
I mean,
something.
no doubt society cannot operate without having some cash in the wallet, some
Yeah,
cash in your bank account.
yeah,
Usually we tell people keep 3 months, 6 months, 9 months of emergency savings. So of
yeah,
course you're always going to have some idle wealth. Like it's not like 100% is going to be like that. But the
right.
idea is a Muslim is focused on impact. And so we try
Okay.
to put as much as we can into
Yeah,
into productive wealth.
benefiting society. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing it from that lens, something new. But yes, we are very excited about the annual zakat and annual purification report that we are planning to have uploaded into the existing clients' portals. So those who are existing clients, stay tuned. In the next few days, we should have that uploaded for you all to benefit from, and we hope to be able to keep that exercise going every year to be able to, inshallah, give you the information that you need to make these zakat calculations simplified for you, and just make it easy for you to go ahead and give into those categories that are eligible to receive zakat. So with that, I think there are a good amount of questions that have trickled in, and maybe we can start and tackle those right away. So feel free to kind of look at which ones might be lumped together, and some of them we can type the answer. Some of them we might just be able to relay live as we speak
Yeah.
out the answers. Yes.
So somebody asked for the links to the Fiqh Council website. I believe the host is sharing them. There are 4 links we had shared, one on investing in stocks, one on zakat on stocks, one on zakat on retirement accounts, and one on zakat on sukuk. So all 4 of those, inshallah, the host will share with you shortly. The 2.2 was very helpful. Can you share it or share the full content? Yeah, so the recording for this webinar will be available, inshallah. So you'll be able to access the 2.2 by 2 and maybe take a screenshot of it. And inshallah, my intent is to write an article and publish it. So you will have access to the 2 by 2 as well, inshallah, in the future. Okay. Is the zakat calculation in Zoya app for my investment portfolio valid? Yes. The zakat calculation from the Zoya app is valid for your basically what you have in your brokerage account. So those will be your shares, your funds, your mutual funds, your ETFs, things like that, your GLD, your SPSK, things like that. But you will still need to add to that zakat that you have for zakat that you like cash and cryptocurrency and things like that. Would automobile, house, health insurance payments be deducted from zakat that you owe in the year as a liability? Any automobile, house, and health insurance payments that are coming up in the next 30 days, you can subtract. So I said anything that's becoming due, your electricity bill, your credit card bill, your taxes that's coming due in the next 30 days, or your health insurance bill, all of those you can deduct as long as they're coming up in the next 30 days, inshallah. Question, okay, let's see. Our family is using a car, but we borrowed money from a family member to buy it. Does it get deducted as part of the liability? The person lending the money hasn't asked for the money back, et cetera, et cetera. No, it's the car you're using someone else's. So you took money from them. Okay, so the person isn't asked the money back, and there was no written contract, but we aim to pay it back by the end of this year. Okay, interesting. So you borrowed money to buy a car, right? But what we're looking at is not the car. What we're looking at is the fact that you borrowed money. Okay, because whatever you borrowed it for is like not doesn't really matter that much. What you could buy a car for it, you could bought something else for it. The car, obviously, you're not going to pay zakat on, but you borrowed money. So let's say you borrowed $20,000 to buy this car. That $20,000, whatever is due, you can subtract. If it's not due, if and you have it as cash or something like that, then you're going to pay it cash in the zakat. In other words, the way to think about it, the way I would treat this if I were you, you've borrowed this money, right? That money, if it's in your car right now, then there's nothing to like pay zakat on. But if you happen to have the cash sitting in your bank account, it'll automatically get added as a part of your bank account, and so you don't have to worry about it from that perspective. If we have to pay zakat on unused real estate for rental purposes, how much would this be? I don't know what you mean by unused real estate for rental purposes. If you bought a house and your intention is that you bought it because you're going to rent it out, you're not paying zakat on it. Whether you have found your renter or not found your renter yet doesn't really matter. You bought it for rental purposes. You're not, because you're going to rent it out to somebody, you will not be paying zakat on it. But if you bought a house because you want to flip the house, you want its value, its price to go up, and then you want to benefit from the delta, then you will pay zakat on the entire house. If I gave loan to others, do I pay zakat on it? The default answer is if you gave a loan to someone else, you will. There's actually some difference of opinion amongst the madhabs. Without going into the difference of opinion, I'll give you a simple answer. And the simple answer is if you expect you will get that money back, then yes, pay zakat on it. If you don't expect you will get that money back, then don't pay the zakat on it. UMTA accounts. Does a parent need to pay the zakat? Sorry, UTMA. So UTMA, UGMA is basically money from a government standpoint. What you're doing is you're passing money on to your child as a gift, but you are still in control of the account that they have. And so generally, I would say yes, pay zakat on it. And so if you are responsible for that account, please make sure that the zakat for that account is taken care of. Okay, does one pay zakat on unused real estate that you bought with the intention to rent it out? No, you do not pay zakat on unused real estate that you bought with the intention to rent it out. Can you calculate your zakat for the year on a set date and pay it out throughout the year? Okay. Yes, you can pay. You should pay your zakat on the set date. Absolutely correct. Can you pay it throughout the year? Yes, but you should pay it throughout the year before, because that zakat due date that comes is sort of the last date on which you should pay zakat. So zakat you can pay, the answer would be, can I pay zakat early? Yes, you can pay zakat early. So you can keep paying it throughout the year. And then when your final zakat due date comes, you do a reconciliation. How much is due? How much of that have I paid already? And you do the math. And that's how you would figure that out. Okay. So yes, you can pay your zakat in advance. You shouldn't pay it late. Okay. Oops, that's done. Is zakat on DAF accounts? Can I use my DAF account to pay zakat from? So first of all, it's a very, very smart idea to take any capital gains that you have, any appreciated assets that you have, and shift them into a DAF so that you can wipe out the capital gains and get a larger tax deduction and benefit the charity that you might give to with even more money. So there's a win-win-win situation. The only party that loses out is Uncle Sam. Is the only party that loses is that you don't end up paying as much tax, but the zakat giver and the donator and the one who basically give to the DAF, that person benefits a lot from reduction in taxes, and that reduction in tax allows you to spend money on other beneficial purposes. Those that don't know what a donor advised fund is, you might want to look it up, also called a DAF, but it allows you to donate. You can donate cash into it if you like. You can also donate appreciated assets like stocks into it. And then what happens is you don't pay any capital gains tax. Okay. Then what you do is from that donor advised fund, you can give cash donations to different charities. So you can give to whoever your favorite charity is. You can go donate directly from a donor advised fund. There's many benefits to a donor advised fund. It allows you to separate the timing of your tax deduction from the timing of your zakat. It allows you to give anonymous donations. So when a charity fills out their Form 990, your name doesn't show up on there if you want to give anonymous donations. There's many, many benefits to a donor advised fund. The way to think about it is when you've moved your money into a donor advised fund, you still own that account. It's your money, it's your value, and so you will have to pay zakat on what's inside the donor advised fund. Okay. And zakat is not deemed to have been given until you transfer money out of that donor advised fund into a charitable organization. So your zakat will be deemed given once you have taken the money out of the donor advised fund or you've executed a transaction to give that money away. You get your tax deduction when you move your money into a DAF. You get your zakat obligation fulfilled when you move the money out of the DAF into a charitable organization.
Sheikh, I will mention a couple of things here, if that's okay.
Yeah,
So the
please.
DAF, for anyone who is interested in exploring the DAF, that is an account that we are able to facilitate for a lot of our clients who are looking to establish that. And oftentimes in the course of your relationship with the advisor that's working with you, we can identify some assets that have long-term gains, especially because it's beneficial for any assets that have been held for at least a year, and we can identify how much or which, what amount are you anticipating to give, or just in general that you're planning to donate or at least pre-fund so that the DAF can facilitate that mechanism of giving those appreciated assets that Sheikh Umer is referring to. So if someone is interested in that or exploring that, that is something that Sharia Portfolio can definitely help you with. On a related note, there's someone who is asking about charitable remainder trust. I will just briefly mention that it's an irrevocable trust where a donor also can donate appreciated assets and things like that, but it's slightly different from a DAF. However, it passes the ability to pass wealth into this charitable account, but also serves as income for those who are drawing from it. Regardless, the idea is similar. And I'll let Sheikh answer the question about whether or not zakat is due on the investments in that. But for those who are also interested in something like a charitable remainder trust, that is something that our team would be happy to assist with if you're looking to explore that. It's generally for higher net worth folks that are looking for additional features above and beyond what you can expect from a DAF. So something I just wanted to
Yeah.
mention, but Sheikh, inshallah, feel free to chime in, because I think some people use them not just to facilitate their zakat, but what happens if money is sitting in that type of account?
Yeah, so a charitable a CRUT is a charitable remainder uni trust, okay? And it's treated essentially in the same way, and so you would end up paying zakat on that as well. So that's the way to think about it. How is a 457B account taxed? Taxed? You can look up the tax implications, but the zakat works basically the same way as a 401k. If I loaned money to someone he is not able to pay, can I count as zakat if I forgive the loan? It actually depends on one of the categories, one of the 8 categories of zakat is somebody in debt. And so the answer is very nuanced, actually. The answer is very nuanced because if you're like, oh, this takes care of my zakat obligation, they're not able to pay it back, let me count that as zakat, that's actually cheating. So that's actually a problem. No, you cannot do that. But if somebody has a debt and they're so much in debt and that debt is becoming due and they're not able to take care of it, they become one of the people eligible for zakat, and you can give them money to take care of that. But it's not supposed to be for your own loan. It's supposed to be for loans that they got from other people that they're now struggling to pay back. So no, if you've given someone a loan, you can't just suddenly turn that into zakat. It doesn't work like that. Sorry about that. Does a high yield savings account count towards savings cash? Yes, a high yield savings account is haram to have because you're earning interest on it, but is going to count as cash for zakat purposes. If someone has precious metals that are over nisab, the cash on hand falls slightly below, do you take the cumulative account? Yes, you take the cumulative account for zakat. Again, there's some nuance in the madhabs, but I would say take the cumulative account. That's what most of the scholars nowadays follow. I have an inherited piece of land and left it there without a future plan yet. If you don't have a plan, you don't have to pay zakat on it. Figure out what you're going to do and then deal with that. Questions about loans to others. Uh, Why is zakat due in that amount? There's a difference of opinion on that one. There's a difference of opinion, but most scholars will say that zakat is due on loans that you've given. If zakat can only be given to Muslims, how does one think about people whose heart needs to be softened? Can this group be non-Muslims? Very controversial question. There's a lot of different opinions classically. There's a lot of different opinions in contemporary times. And so you can find a lot of material online right now on the difference that has existed on the category of mu'allifa qulubuhum, the idea of this one of the categories of zakat, where people who may be non-Muslims might be recipients of zakat. Very controversial category. I would rather not get into the controversy. And so I will just avoid that question. Okay. What if someone in the community who doesn't have basic money for a car or basic needs asks for help? The car costs 8,000. You know that you typically pay 10,000 for zakat yearly, so you pay the car in full, making the intention for zakat without asking for any future repayment, also knowing he has nisab or not. So you pay for don't pay for the car. Give them the cash. Give them the cash, and it's if they're below nisab, they're eligible to get zakat. No problem. Give them the cash, and they can buy their own car. Zakat on HSA account, same calculation as Zoya app. Yes, you can use the same one. Okay. Someone says, I wrote 2 papers arguing the 70% discount is not correct. I think what they're trying to say is if you read the various fatwas out there, you will find some fatwas that say that you can pay. I talked about zakat on stocks, right? And I said the zakat on stocks follows the balance sheet method because the way that a investment in a stock, the way that the investment in stocks is treated is in classic terms, this is called musharaka. Actually, in classic terms, it's not even called musharaka. It's more modern, we call it musharaka. It is classic terms usually called like sharika or shirka or something like that. It's the idea when people come together and they partner together to form an enterprise. Okay, so in modern books, in modern Islamic finance books, like the Introduction to Islamic Finance by Mufti Taqi Osmani and others, you're going to find it's called musharaka, and even in the last few hundred years, has been called musharaka. So this idea is that partners come together and they invest in a business. So whether you have one person investing in a business or you have 2 people investing in a business and it's 50-50, it doesn't change the zakat treatment. And if you change it from 2 people investing in a business to 1 million people investing in a business, it still doesn't change the zakat treatment because the way that you invest in stocks, the entire permissibility of investing in stocks is based on this idea of musharaka, that you're actually an owner and a partner in the business and that you are held responsible if the business is dealing with too much haram, right? So the entire premise of investing in stocks is built on this idea. And so it's the idea of musharaka. So the way that you're going to treat whether I own an ice cream shop myself, or I have an ice cream shop with a partner with me, or I buy a share in Apple or Nvidia or some ice cream company, the zakat treatment is going to be based on the balance sheet. Now, what some people have said is that when you do this math, so let me just pull up, I'm going to pull up my slide again on how you pay zakat on stocks, is you're looking at it like a business, right? So if you're looking at it as a business, go ahead and share the slide. Sorry, this is a very complicated question, so I want to make sure I answer it right. If I look at my investment in a stock as a business, then in the business, I will again not be paying. I will not be paying zakat on the fixed assets, but I will be paying on the idle assets. And then we did some math, and we said, for different businesses, this amounts to different percentages, right? So what some people have done is they've analyzed the S&P 500 over the last few years, and they've said, you know what? Even when the stock market gets a little bit lower, this zakatable percentage sticks to about 30%. Okay, it's about 30%. They come up with this value of when we do an average across the entire stock market, it's about 30%. Someone else did this for the FTSE, the stock exchange in UK, and they came up with a value of 25%. Okay, so some people have created these values and they said, you know what? Why don't you just, instead of calculating the exact zakat, let's just use this value. Let's make our lives easier. So instead of using 8%, 25%, 1.9%, we're going to use 30% across the board. Now, my argument back is when you have specific information and you can do math with the exact stock amount, you should do the math. In the absence of information, Allah does not hold any person to account more than they can bear. So if we have a particular fund or a stock where we're absolutely unable to get access to the balance sheet, then what you could do is say, let's use the stock market average. Why is it not a good idea to use the stock market average all of the time? Because if you actually study the S&P 500, you're going to find there are many stocks that are above 30%. If it's an industrial company like a steel company, or they have a lot of, buildings and fixed assets and things like that, they have like a lot of that. You're going to find that the zakat, actually, it's not even that. It just depends on the type of company. Software companies tend to have a low zakatable percentage, and hardware companies tend to have a higher zakatable percentage. So if you look at the S&P 500, you're going to find sometimes they're above 30% and sometimes they're below 30%. So I do not think that just using 30% across the board is a good idea when you have access to this information. We have tools like seemyzakat.com. We have tools like Zoya finance calculator and so on. So I suggest you use that. But in the absence of any other information, then fine, you can resort to a 30%. So I do not promote, and personally do not like the idea of using a 30% across the board. Okay, so it says, now there's a question about your zakat is not a productive asset. It represents a voting right and a claim to a dividend. So I think this person is very confused between the legal structure of how a company works and the essence of what you're doing. So they're failing to understand how a business works, right? A business, basically, you have a business that has its productive and its idle wealth. You may have multiple partners in the business. And then what might happen is one of those partners might be, there's this concept of silent partners. There's a concept of productive partners. There's a concept of, even if you are a silent partner, from an Islamic perspective, you can be blocked from having access to your capital. Okay. A business is very much a productive asset. So we need to realize that businesses are productive things. Allah wants us to invest. فَلْيَتَّجِرْ فِيهِ, right? Invest in these productive assets. And that's what participating in a business does. And so let's say you have an ice cream shop which has two partners, one silent and one that's contributing capital. Then what's happening in that scenario is both of them are participating in the business. One of them is silent, one of them is not. It doesn't really matter. One of them is managing the business, the other one's a silent partner. It doesn't really matter. Then let's say that silent partner sells their shares to another person in the secondary market. Again, it doesn't really matter because the ice cream shop is still relying upon those resources, that capital, in order to function. If that secondary partner who bought it in the secondary market said, I want to convert this into capital, I want to convert this into cash, that ice cream shop would not be able to function. They'd have to sell off their freezers, their ice cream making machines, their furniture, their building, all of this stuff. That's not a realistic business. In a musharaka, you can have an agreement where the partners say, we will not end this business. It's not you can even give up voting rights. It doesn't even matter. You cannot have voting rights. What matters is the equity investment. Okay, this is how a business works. Okay, there's stocks that are at 0%, e.g. franchises. Yeah, that's fine. If a stock is at 0%, it's at 0%. When will the recording of the stock be available? I don't know. The question about 457B was about zakat. Yes, there is zakat due on 457B. What are the alternatives instead of using high yield savings accounts? You have to invest in permissible securities. That article that was shared earlier talks about permissible securities. Okay. With that, I think we're near the end of time. For the person who asked the question about businesses not being a productive asset, they're thinking about their investment in stocks as commodities. So yes, they're going to pay full market value. I have no problem with that. But do not try to influence your opinion on others who look at stocks as businesses, and that's why they invest. The best way to invest in a stock is to look at the company, see what the company does, and say, oh Allah, my intention behind investing in this business is to increase products and services and jobs and boost the economy. And I want to do good for the world. I want to create benefit in the world, and I want to do well myself. I want to do good and I want to do well. So I'm going to invest in halal companies. I'm going to invest in good companies that create benefit. I am going to pay attention to, are these companies doing evil in the world? I don't want to invest in those. I want to invest in companies yeah, they do good for the world and they benefit me and I do well as well. And so that's the way that we should be investing. And therefore we are investors. We're participants in that business. And if you're confused about that idea, please reach out to me and we can talk about this further. But this is a very fundamental concept that has existed for decades now, by the way. Mufti Taqi gave a fatwa on zakat on stocks like a couple of decades ago, separating between dividends and capital gains and showing that how a business can be treated in different ways. So this is not some new idea. This is an idea that's been around for a long time, and it's been promoted by almost every single scholar in the field of Islamic finance. And so something that we should all try to understand if we can. Okay. I do have to drop myself.
Thank you so much, Sheikh.
And run to
I know
another
you've been kind
seminar.
of going, yeah, you've been going for like a train. So we appreciate it, and I see the comments. People are really benefiting from the content and the Q&A, and we really appreciate your participation. The recording will be, inshallah, available in the next couple of days. For those who are on YouTube, you can check it out. You know, the live stream, you know, recording will be there, but we will also be sending something out in the next few days here from our marketing team. And if nothing else, please pray for us, and we will do the same for the rest of the Ramadan. May Allah bless you and your families. And we look forward to reconnecting again soon. If there's any feedback, do share with us at info@shariaportfolio.com. And we're here to serve and happy to continue to work with you, existing clients, and any new people interested in working with us. We're happy to explore that with a free consultation. So thank you once again. Have a good, blessed rest of the day, and we will look forward to seeing you once again in the next session. Assalamu alaikum.